Welcome back to the Real Arsenal Deal podcast. This is Rav, your host. Hope you are well wherever you are in the world. Thank you for coming along. Thank you for tuning into this recording. And I thought I just had to pop back on. It's Monday afternoon here, just after Monday lunchtime in Australia. I had to come back on and just talk some more about the victory over the weekend and some key talking points coming out of the match. And we've strangely got a 7-day break now, well 5.5 now, day break until West Ham on the weekend. So there's plenty to discuss and reflect on, and I'm sure that's going to be worked on during this week on the training pitch. A rare opportunity again for Arteta to really just bed in some tactics and different strategies. And now that we've come out of the Dubai trip and we've all now dealt with and processed the Kai Havertz news and the reality for Arsenal over the next 3, 4, 5 weeks is going to be we have who we have now. We have a scarce number of attackers and formations and players and whatnot that we can work on. And Arteta's got the opportunity now, off the back of the weekend's win, hopefully providing some momentum for the club. We've got the time now to really see what the next stage of this season has in store for us. So again, thank you for those of you who tuned in on the weekend. I just listened to little segments of my podcast post-match that I recorded at about 1:45 a.m. in a dark corner of the spare room in our house while my wife and my 2 sons slept. I had to get my older son back to sleep, of course, because I woke him up going nuts like a madman, celebrating the first Merino goal, and the second one then followed up, of course. I was much more restrained. But it was just hilarious listening to me just waffle on like that. I was kind of whispering into the microphone because, yeah, as I said, everyone else is asleep and it was dark and I'm fumbling over the recording equipment and I'm just thinking, like, what have I come to? What have I been reduced to? Right? But it doesn't have to make sense to anyone else, right? But like you, because the reason you're listening to this is because you are an Arsenal fan, you love the club, just like I do, right? So we're wired a certain way, aren't we? The things we do may not make logical sense to others, and I totally get that. It's what makes us all unique, yeah? So it was just funny listening to that, and I thought I'd come back on and just talk a little bit more about some of the talking points to unpack over the weekend. So again, thank you for all the support and feedback. That episode, funnily enough, was my most listened to so far on YouTube and the podcast platforms. So maybe people were listening in because of, like, sometimes something is so bad it's good that you it's like, I have to see this, right? Maybe it was an element of that. But I'd like to think maybe there's something that I am adding that resonates with my viewers and listeners, and maybe that's why you click play again, and hopefully will continue to do so. So thank you again for all that. So onto some talking points that I just want to summarize in today's podcast. There's a few things to talk about, of course, and one of them I will get to. It's one that's sort of looming around, the Raheem Sterling discussion. I'll get to that in a few minutes' time, because it does have to be spoken about, rightly or wrongly. He signed. We have him in the squad. We signed him because of the circumstances at the time on deadline day. We have to find a way to unlock the best out of him, and there is a discussion to be had based on the performance we saw on the weekend. First and foremost, though, it was hard for me to revisit the match in too much analysis because we won, right? And I think if you asked me or asked most other fans going into the match, what's the most important thing? Is it a really beautiful, fluid, open play performance? Arsenal, Arsenal keeping them at bay, putting together beautiful strings, passages of play, lots of lovely passes and fluent football. I'm a realist. It's not going to be that, right? If we need to win ugly, if we need to 1-0 to the Arsenal ourselves over this next period of time and we just keep getting 3 points, that is fine by me. It's not going to be pretty to watch, right? So I had to compartmentalize a lot of what I was seeing in the first half. Yes, it was dour. It was difficult. We were very stop-start. We looked slow at times as well. but also it was very ill-disciplined. The number of offsides, right? It absolutely did my head in. I was struggling. They were just really schoolboy errors. And yes, Sterling copped a lot of the blame for that. It was also Trossard too. There's an interesting conversation to be had around Trossard as well, because his match seemed to transform when he went back to the left. He just seemed much more natural there. And I think what's happened is now, players evolve, systems evolve. Last season, we saw Trossard be very, very effective as the false nine. Scored a lot of goals there too, right? However, as time goes on, I'm just not sure that's his position. That's where he's best utilised, or for himself and for the team. He's a very natural fit at left wing, and he just seemed a different player then, because up until that point, it was hard to it was hard to say he had a good game, right? He was struggling a bit as well, and wasn't having quite the impact that we were hoping we'd get from him. And this is the thing that we rely so much upon him now. He's had a very heavy workload as well, and if anything, we've been fortunate. I'm going to touch wood again that I don't jinx this. We've been very fortunate that he hasn't had an injury, right? If he gets a knock or something, even just a light strain that keeps him out for a week or two, for example, we're in a very dire situation. But Trossard was much better on the left-hand side. I think as the game wore on, we started to take away some key learnings from this match. And look, I may as well just get straight to it, right? I'm kind of tiptoeing around and dancing around it. Raheem Sterling. I think the key takeaway from this was that we unfortunately just cannot rely upon him to be a starter, a contributor in this next patch of matches for Arsenal. It's just, I take no joy in saying that. I take no pleasure in saying it. I understand, especially because of the Chelsea history as well, right? There's a lot of animosity amongst the Arsenal fan base, taking on Chelsea players and doing them a favour and bailing them out of certain signings and all that sort of stuff, right? So I understand there's that aspect to it too. And I'm not on this podcast, right? If you've listened for the first time, or you're a repeat listener, hopefully one of the things that you've garnered from me and my approach is that I'm not a ranting raver. I'm not gonna hammer individuals, right? I'm not gonna go in two-footed to certain people. That's just not me. It's not my vibe. I just don't believe, that's not my philosophy in life. We are all doing our best. Whether someone's collecting a few £100,000 a week or not, we're all human, right? We're all trying our absolute best to navigate what is, a very challenging world, and it continues to be so for many people. So I'm not going to go too hard on him, right? There's also some stuff about Sterling that he contends with that many others don't, and this is real life reality for people of colour, players of colour, right? Some of the crap that's been flung his way, for all that he's done at club level, what he's won, the number of England caps he's represented his country for in a number of tournaments, right? He gets so much crap in the media, and there's clearly a racial bias. They've done it with Saka. They did it recently with Lewis Skelly, right, with the celebrations. Everyone knows what I'm referring to here, right? Everyone knows what I'm talking about. It shouldn't be happening, and it does. Raheem Sterling's copped so much crap over purchasing his mother a home, and it just shouldn't be happening, right? So I do empathise with him. He broke through at a very young age, 16, 17 years old. It's very, very young, and we've seen the impact of that volume of football on developing bodies and teenagers who sometimes don't really fully grow in terms of their bones and muscles until late teenage years or whatnot. We saw Smith Rowe struggle with this, right? We at Arsenal firsthand have had experiences with Jack Wilshere, Hector Bellerin, right? When they broke through so young, and when you put thousands and thousands of minutes into their bodies, right, over those crucial formation years, it can lead to problems down the line. And Sterling, why he might only be 29, or I believe he just turned 30 actually, so please correct me if I'm wrong. Whilst he may only, in inverted commas, be 29 or 30 years of age, his body, in terms of mileage and football mileage, the levels that he's played with of internationals and Premier League his entire career, that could be the equivalent of 35, 36. I don't know. It can be hard to quantify like that. But the point I'm trying to say is that he's not who he used to be, and we all know that. I think we gambled on his signing, and we placed a lot of hope on the Arteta relationship that he had with City. We there was a lot of variables that were more based on hope maybe than anything particularly tangible or empirical. So if you've listened to me in the last week or two, when on my previous recordings referencing the opportunities Dubai presents the squad, I spoke at length about Raheem Sterling and hoping that, that he can just have, can we unlock something with him? Can he have some real good one-on-one time with the squad, with Arteta on the training pitch, right? Can he really step up? Because we're going to need him. Like it or not, we have who we have, and there are so many minutes to be shared around that even despite his performance on the weekend, please don't get me wrong. I'm saying he's never. I'm not suggesting he's never going to set foot on the field again. It's not that at all. We don't have that luxury. We're going to need him. But based on what I saw, I think his opportunity is going to be very, very limited now. I've heard the wonderful Arsblog and others refer to his performance as playing himself out of the 11, and that's really, really eloquent. It's summarized perfectly. I don't see how we can rely upon him to start games, unfortunately. Scenarios where he's going to be very much needed and useful, that if Arsenal are in a comfortable position in the match, just say we're up 2 or 3-0, and geez, how much would I love that scenario to even happen, right? Because it's going to be a challenge scoring goals, as we saw. But if we have 15, 20, 25 minutes left on the clock and we have a comfortable margin and we can afford to protect Trossard or Wanyeri, that's where I see Sterling's impact being, that can he come on and protect them? Can he come on and just do the job, see out the clock, right? And we can hopefully utilize and receive the benefits that way. In terms of starting a match, I don't see it, unfortunately, and I take no pleasure in saying that, because it wasn't just the offsides. It was that he looks bereft of confidence. Whatever I was hoping to see post Dubai, I just didn't see it at all. He was just running into the fullback. He wasn't even trying to dribble around them or trying to get past his man. He was just hoping. He was just okay, dribble the ball at them and hope I get around them. And he was just dispossessed time after time. And it was just very unfortunate, quite sad to see. And I think we have to just strike a line through maybe it was me all along. Maybe I was too hopeful. But in my head, I'm thinking, can we unlock him? Can we get in this next, say, 6 to 8 weeks? Can we get 2 or 3 goals from him? Can we get a couple of assists? Can we get a good volume of minutes at the level and intensity that Arsenal need? But unfortunately, no. He just looked out of place in what is otherwise a very, very well established, well entrenched system and a style that Arsenal play. And when there's a standout, I'm loath to use the word weak link or anything like that, right? But where there's a standout gap in that system, it can make all the difference. This is a cutthroat level of football, the Premier League. We need 3 points every match. The margins are that fine for us, right? That all these differences, they make a huge difference in the end. So I think I'm going to leave it there on that topic, right? Because it's otherwise, this is meant to be a uplifting, positive podcast, and I very much want to get back to that. And what better way to do that than talk about the glory of Hale End? Ethan Wanyeri and Miles Lewis-Skelly, my God, I've said this so many times, right? I did not see this coming. I knew how highly rated they were. Whilst I'm certainly no expert on the youth team levels of football at Arsenal, I do rely upon just snippets of information that I receive from those in the know. And these two gentlemen, these two boys, their names continually came up as ones to keep an eye out for. I don't think any of us really expected for them to perform at the level they have. It's actually not normal. I was just thinking about this. I was talking to my son yesterday about this. This is not normal. At the age of 17 and 18, when you see their names on the team sheet, right, no one blinks. no one bats an eyelid. There's no longer that worry. Sometimes when you hear the team announced, and there can be that reactive feeling inside, like, what? How come he's playing? Or what? He picked him again. He picked him over so and so. But look who's on the bench. There's no reaction. I don't even do a double take. I feel totally comfortable and easy. I actually feel reassured seeing their names on the team sheet. Yep, great. Okay, that's the back line. Lewis Skelly's in. Yep, sure. Wanyeri on the right. Okay, fantastic. Like, this is not normal. They have completely established themselves. They're not just like players who are just going to, be on the fringes. These are two established first-team senior footballers, and they're teenagers. It's remarkable. And yes, I'm a father as well, right? So maybe that explains why I'm a little bit overprotective of these two, like I have been with Saka in recent years as well. But I just want them to do so well. I'm so proud of them. And it sounds irrational. It doesn't really make sense, this random bloke from all the way across the other side of the world, right? I'm just so proud of them. I'm proud of what they represent, who they represent, their cultures, their identity, the fact that they've been at the club since they were 7, 8, 9 years old and been brought up through the system, and to have that reflected, to have them represented globally, right, representing Arsenal. I'm just so proud of that. I really, really am. Makes me a little bit emotional sometimes just thinking about this stuff. You think of the level of just how many things have to go right. Yeah, and it clearly starts from themselves, their mentality, their upbringing, the support they receive from their families and their parents, who from all reports are just wonderful people as well. The coaching staff all throughout all youth levels who have nurtured them and looked after them, and now under Arteta's tutelage, right? I'm just so proud of who they are and what they represent. And this is no exaggeration what I'm about to say. I don't think Arsenal are even in the position that we are right now, given what's happened this season, without them. I don't think that's an exaggeration. Look, it can be hard to quantify, to say that, they're worth this many points to Arsenal in the Premier League. It can be very hard to say, right? However, given what has gone on, and we all know what I'm referring to, the injuries, the cluster injuries, some of the decisions made against us, the red cards, we all know it, right? So the fact that we're still even second and we're even in the conversation, it's remarkable. It really is. The fact that we qualified third in the Champions League and we've earned the break. There's European fixtures happening last week, this week. We've earned that break. We earned the right off because of our very strong Champions League campaign. Wanyeri has contributed to that, of course. His last two starts for Arsenal, Leicester over the weekend and in the Champions League before that, he's been man of the match both times. Man of the match. He's 17. It's extraordinary what they've brought to us. And there's obviously that huge youthful enthusiasm that can just generate, it can reverberate throughout the squad, throughout the club. And you can clearly see how much all their teammates are enjoying this too, right? They're proud of them as well. And who knows where Arsenal would be right now without them. I don't think any of us foresaw when we were looking at our squad numbers entering into this season, and clearly we were light. We know the areas of the squad that we identified as needing more coverage, right? I don't think any of us really factored them into the whole equation, and they both have. And it's remarkable, and I just hope they keep going on this trajectory because they absolutely deserve it. They've earned the right to be here. They belong. These are not just a couple of passengers on the pitch, right? They belong. The ball is given to them, and there's complete confidence by the teammates in giving it to them, and they just fit seamlessly into the system. Wanyeri's performance on the weekend is just extraordinary. It is ridiculous how good he was. He was the shining light. Even through, I don't want to talk too much about the match performance and the first half again, right? You heard me waffle on a few minutes ago. It's one of those things where I'm quite happily just never to refer to that again, right? But even Wanyeri, he was the shining light. He was the standout throughout. He was the one man who looked completely intentional. Give him the ball. And he was making things happen. Hit the post twice. A beautiful ball to Marino, right? And he's registered an assist. It was just a beautiful performance. He looked completely at ease there. And I think him doing what he did, it lifted and elevated players around him. Odegaard had a much better second half. Rice, he seemed to have the engine like that only he has. They were repossessed almost in the second half. You can see the running power, the speed, the enthusiasm that was gained throughout the club. And we have to point out how, when I refer to how differently the season could be without them, it also needs to be highlighted how different this match would have been without Mars Lewis-Skelly. That was an amazing block, by the way, in the back line. It was given away carelessly by Thomas Partey, who overall, he's having quite a good season. He's played so many more minutes than even I anticipated, right? Maybe many of us just factored in that his injury woes are going to continue, but they haven't, which is testament to him. He's prone to these sorts of things once, twice a game. Just a very careless moment like that happens, and it's like, damn, what is going on? And we were committed forward. Timber was committed forward. He wasn't getting back in time. Partey tried his best to sprint back, but he doesn't have the same running power that he once had. It was a lovely ball across from Iwu and Lewis-Skelly. I know it's been mentioned a number of times and broken down in slow motions. He kind of gets his foot stuck, right? But somehow still, he somehow conjured it out of nowhere, because Raya was beaten there. Raya understandably has come forward. He's trying to block the cross. His positioning was fine. But then Lewis-Skelly, to have the awareness of the danger behind him, see the ball, anticipate it coming across, and just deflect it wide to safety. Oh my God, it was amazing. And we do not win from there. I'm just convinced of it, right? Because of how much has to go right for Arsenal, and this is our reality, right? That it can come down to defining moments like this. Chances are either end, whether they're taken or not. I don't see a world in which Arsenal come back from there and win the 3 points. It was extraordinary, right? So the very fact that we're still in the conversation, we're still in the room, is testament to all the players, is testament to the manager, and the caliber of contributions we're receiving from Lewis-Skelly in 1 year as well. It really is amazing. And in terms of being in the title race, yes, I fully expected Liverpool to win this morning. I actually haven't watched any highlights or anything like that. I did take a glance at the scores this morning when I was just before brushing my teeth, and I fully expected them to win. So I'm not too bothered by that. Look, 7 points. 7 points is a big gap, right? It's a big gap at any point, really, assuming you have a full squad. Given where Arsenal currently are, for us to overcome 7 points with the injuries that we've got and be 7 points better than them from now to the end of the season, yes, it's very unlikely, right? However, I keep saying they believe, they're not packing it in, right? They're not giving up. That's the energy they transmit to me. So I sure as hell am not giving up. I think the next week is going to be very crucial. We really need to get our job done, and that applies to every match, right? We must get the 3 points against West Ham this weekend, which I'm confident we will. However, the next week it's interesting because, Liverpool have Villa and then City. You just never know. You never know. If they take 6 points from 6 there, look, I think then, it makes things very, very difficult. However, if they drop points in 1 or 2 of the matches, you just never know, right? We just got to stay in the room. We just got to stay in the picture, and I believe the club is pulling out all stops to make sure we do, because we can't come this far, right? Not just of the season, but of the entire project. We cannot come this far and just pack it in. We can't, and we won't. So just some other bits and pieces before I wrap this one up and get this out. Mikel Merino, it was incredible what he did, right? It was absolutely fantastic. However, we also need to be a bit cautious and realistic. Does it mean he's going to be able to do that, to have that impact in every single match? That's the question. He himself has admitted he's never played in that position before. You could have been fooled, right? Because he seemed to have an excellent tactical awareness, positioning of where the striker needs to be occupying those areas of the pitch. He was always someone who was a threat at the back post, and that very much proved itself twice. The way he drifted in there and found the space, and then with 2 lovely finishes. So that gives me a lot of comfort. Is it going to work every single match? I don't know, and I don't think anyone's being unrealistic to expect that. What we really can benefit from is that I think he'll start this weekend against West Ham, and that will allow Trossard to go back to the left. And as I mentioned before, he's a real danger there, but that's where he's at his best, I believe. Wanyeri speaks for himself, right? He's going to be on the right. And all of a sudden, Arsenal have that target man. We have that directness. We have that shape that we can utilize. Marino's dual winning ability. He can win headers, right? He can distribute off, and then we know that he's just going to sprint forward and try and find a gap, and we can look from there. We can look to unlock a pass and feed him in the box. So it does give me a lot of encouragement. At the same time, we just got to temper our expectations as well, because it's just not something. I'm not sure if it's lightning that struck in a bottle. Will that happen twice or not? Geez, I certainly hope so. However, with him there, it just changes the dynamics for us. All of a sudden, opposition fans who are thinking, opposition managers and players and fans who are thinking, look, Arsenal are done, they can't score a goal. Then all of a sudden they see Marino drifting around in the box and they know he's lurking. They might start to look over their shoulder too and get worried. And we know what opportunities that can create for others. Wanyeri, I've already mentioned. Odegaard, right. If there was a time for Odegaard to start hitting the scoreboard like he was a few seasons ago, geez, it's now. He was excellent in the second half, all right, against Leicester. He really grew into the match. He was fantastic. And all of a sudden, playing off the likes of Marino, right, they do have a history together at Sociedad, so you just don't know what dynamics and what relationships and pairings can really produce and emerge themselves in times like now. So that gives me a lot more encouragement. It's not in isolation. Marino is a centre forward. He's the answer to our striking problems. No, I'm not saying that. What gives me more comfort is what Marino does for the system and those around him. And that is what I'm really, really keen to see more of. I'm very fascinated to see how can we leverage that? How can we leverage the momentum? And how can he continue to bring others into play? The aspect of Wanyeri to Marino was very similar to not too long ago, Saka and Havertz. The way that ball was distributed and plonked on his head and put away with aplomb, that gives me a lot of encouragement. And oh boy, I'm really keen to see. I'd love to see more of that. Okay, so I've been approaching half an hour now, so I'll wrap this up in a moment. And look, it's just one of those things I wanted to touch on. Is that does anyone else just have that feeling, that spring in their step after Arsenal win? I do constantly. Right? Yes, I was quite sleep deprived yesterday, as I often am with the time zone differences. However, it just makes it all the more better that Arsenal win. Everything seems better. It was funny this morning. I was cleaning the bathrooms, cleaning the showers and the sinks and whatnot, doing little bits and pieces around the house, but everything just feels better. It was great. Like it's just, I've got a spring in my step. It was fantastic. I just everything, all the little stuff doesn't seem to bother me, right? And it's a lovely feeling. That can anyone else resonate? All right, it's just everything just seems great when Arsenal win, and I'm certainly hoping there's a lot more of this to come because it was very much a needed victory. Of course, we needed the 3 points, and no matter how we got there, that was the most important thing. To win it in the manner in which we did, it was brilliant. It really, really was. And if you tuned into a podcast I made a few days ago when I was discussing the preview for this match and Arteta's press conference post-Dubai, I made references to that as just a really, really important press conference, the most important that I think I can recall for quite some time. And in similar vein, given what's happened, given the injuries, given where Arsenal are poised in the Premier League and the Champions League, it was just a really important milestone over the weekend to win. It was a very important game. And yes, on paper, you'd expect Arsenal to win these matches. I mean, of course, Leicester are quite likely going to be relegated, so we cannot be dropping points there. You cannot drop points in these situations. I understand that. I acknowledge that. However, it was just so important that Arsenal win because we, like the players, right, we need to seek that reassurance. We need to go out there and say, no, we still got this. We're going to be okay. We can still win. We can still find a way. And do their hardest to get the result. And we did. And I'm so proud of them. I'm so proud of the players so proud of the club, right? Or we need to keep displaying this level of desire and resilience, because that's where the glory is going to happen, right? We are fighting for every point. We are fighting for some major trophies here. They're not giving it up. I sure as hell am not going to give it up. And I hope you listening, I hope you're the same. I hope you're not going to give this up either, right? Keep supporting them. Keep looking after yourselves. I keep mentioning this time after time. Just be conscious of what you're consuming and what online battles or trolls or whatever, or clickbait stuff that you're being drawn into, right? Keep looking after yourself. If you've made it this far, once again, I just cannot thank you enough for listening to all of my content so far. I'm really enjoying it. You are please most welcome to like, subscribe, follow on the podcast platforms. A review would be fantastic, please, from what I'm learning and reading. It really helps to boost visibility and engagement on if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, those apps. If you could be kind enough, please, to leave me a review. I read everything. I read every comment I receive. For me, feedback is a gift. So you can please feel free, anything you've got to say or add, or any suggestions, anything that I'm saying, all right, please feel free to reach out and let me know. I very much welcome it and I appreciate it. And thank you again. I'll be back on in a few days' time as we head in towards the West Ham match to discuss all things Arsenal. Thank you again so much for being here. And as always, look after yourself and come on, Arsenal.